Welcome to Cards Hub 365, powered by Gray Bar on Sports Hub STL. All content here provided by DraftKings. The crown is yours. He's Mike Claiborne. I'm Stefan Caray here on a wonderful Tuesday afternoon. This is a great contest between the Cardinals and the Orioles coming up. Game 2 of the series, 5:35 local time, first pitch in St. Louis. And Camden Yards was rocking yesterday on Memorial Day, but one of the maybe lesser desirable performances from the Cardinals over the last few weeks. They lose 5-2. What were your takeaways from game 1 of the series?
It was one of those days where it was bound to happen. It just wasn't there. It wasn't their day. This is a team that likes to jump out early, and they had an opportunity early in the game to do it, and they didn't. And it just didn't have a good feel for it. I mean, it was a couple of blue pits. The first time they made 2 errors in the game since late April, and it just didn't have a flow. And I really feel that during the course of a season, you're going to have those days. Baltimore brought their A game, and we're seeing that more, that teams that they play, they kind of get up for the Cardinals now, knowing that they're a good team. And I think we saw that yesterday. I look at today as being a different day. You push the reset button and you go back out and you see what you can do.
No doubt about it. Today it'll be Tomoyuki Sugano, who is from the Nippon Baseball League in Japan. He had a tremendous career there, winning the MVP award quite a few times in the Central Division of that league. He's looked great, a 35-year-old rookie up against Andre Palante, who's been up and down this year. But you get the feeling this is a bit of a trap series for the Cardinals, a team in the Orioles that are struggling a bit in 2025, more than most would have expected, but still a team that you could definitely lose the series to if you don't go and play your cards the right way.
Yeah, I agree with you, Stefan. It is a trap series. They have all these alleged young prospects that are, near phenom, and maybe they are. You could see some talent on the field, but, their pitching is very suspect. Their bullpen is even more concerning. And you still see guys making what I would call non-big league mistakes. And, that's part of growth. But overall, your point is a correct one. That if you don't play hard and put them away early, they will be a problem for you later.
Yesterday, it seemed like Eric Fetty would get to 2 strikes and just wouldn't be able to find the corners of the zone. He was leaving pitches over the middle, which led to the inevitable success of the Baltimore Orioles bats. Did you notice that yesterday in game 1?
The other thing about him yesterday, his control was pretty good. He only walked one person. He had 5 strikeouts. It wasn't that his control wasn't bad. It was the fact that, as you touched on, he wasn't able to put guys away in 4 pitches or 3 pitches. And he's not a strikeout guy. He's a guy that you have to put in play against him. And it just was off. It was off. And, they were hitting them pretty hard in some cases. And then there were these blue pits that, that just fell in front of somebody. And the 2 errors didn't help. Both errors really kind of opened up the gate for the most part, especially the first error by Gorman, which is just, those plays you got to make. And it just, like I said earlier, it was just all, the game just appeared to be off track. And there's no one issue that overrides another. I think getting called out on strikes with runners on base in that situation, we had that happen 2 or 3 times yesterday. You just got to be more aggressive. And I expect a different effort today.
Plate discipline certainly has been one of the hallmarks for the Cardinals, but it didn't benefit them yesterday as much as you would have liked to see. Like you just mentioned, getting called out on strikes. They were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. In a game where you lose by 3, you'd like to have at least one hit and really put pressure on them. But it goes back to the old question. Would you rather have opportunities and not succeed with them, or not have the opportunities at all? And I'm of the opinion that I'd rather have the opportunities, because it's going to continue to be a possibility for you moving forward.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Guys were putting it in play. They were getting on base, as you mentioned. They just weren't able to get the hit when they needed it, or move a runner along. And move a runner along, in some cases, a fly ball, or ground ball to the right side of the infield. There's a lot of different ways to stay aggressive on the bases. They just weren't able to do it yesterday.
And I have to address this because I'm sure all the fans are thinking about it and want us to touch on it. Dylan Carlson, a huge game yesterday. Was that not the most obvious possible outcome for a guy like that came back up from AAA and has really been succeeding now against his former team?
Yeah, but and by the way, I've known Dylan. We spent some time together last night, as a matter of fact. I've known him forever. Wonderful person. It just didn't work here. It obviously didn't work in Tampa. It wasn't working in Baltimore because they sent him out. I have no regrets on what the Cardinals did for him. They moved him and hopefully thinking that he was going to be able to play somewhere else. It didn't work. So for him to have a good day at the ballpark yesterday, that's great. Now, if he can have 2 days at the ballpark, that's even better. And another day, and another day, and another day, that's where we're at. But I don't lament the fact that they moved him. And I was one that really didn't care what if he came up big yesterday, but that's not one of those trades that you say, oh boy, he's come back to haunt us. That's not how it works.
I think you're dealing with the same level of ambivalence that I was when the Diamondbacks were in town. Is you're not ever rooting for the team that's playing the Cardinals, but when you know someone like Dylan Carlson, or someone like I know Corbin Carroll, you root for the player and hope that their team's result doesn't quite go the direction that you want.
Hey, I hope he goes 4 for 4 and the Cardinals win 4-3. There's plenty of runway for everybody to celebrate their cause. And in this case, as you mentioned, the individual players, you always hope they do well. You just hope their team doesn't do as well as yours.
And certainly the Orioles played well yesterday. Their young stars showed up. Charlie Morton was the best version of himself in the year 2025, a starting rotation that has really struggled this season. They'll turn to Tomoyuki Sugano, who we'll touch on in just a few short moments. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about Gray Bar, who is our title sponsor here for Cards Hub 365. They're your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. Also, anybody watching, viewing, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube video. Get involved in the conversation. Cardinals are hot right now, 6 games above 500. We'd like to hear your thoughts, your questions, your concerns here on Sports Hub STL. He's Mike Claiborne. I'm Stefan Caray, talking all about Cardinals versus Orioles. And today, game number 2, big one against Baltimore.
Let me ask you this, and I was kind of amused when you said thoughts or concern. What would be a concern right now if you're a fan of the Cardinals?
See, I don't have any, but they have found ways to surprise me on Twitter. I think you have to leave the door open for whatever they can conjure. I don't have any concerns. I mean, talk to me a month and a half ago. I think we all know what those shows looked like, but this was a really, really good stretch of games for the Cardinals. 16-21. You'll take that any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Yeah,
and it's not like they were playing the Marlins or the White Sox. I mean, they were playing some good teams doing that run. And, they kind of get they're supposed to get a few days off when you're playing Baltimore. And it's going to pick up again because you're going to face Texas, and they're trying to turn the corner. And I think we're going to see DeGrom while we're there. And then the schedule starts to perk up again. So, it's one of those things that you're going to lose games, in a 162-game schedule. But it's how you lose them is where the concern would be in play. And I haven't seen anything in the losses that makes me say, oh, brother, we got to do this, we got to do that. Now, if there's one thing I would do, I would definitely go out and try and find another closer with experience. He may not be my number one guy, but, I want to make sure that every night I've got a guy who can get the last 3 outs. And, I can't use Helsley every night. He had 53 pitches in 2 days over the weekend. And if they can save him until Wednesday, maybe use him Wednesday, have an off day on Thursday. But the way the weather shakes out, we may be playing on Thursday. Who knows? But point being, you need to have another guy. And I know Phil Maton did it the other day, but Phil Maton is not a guy who's what I would call an ideal closer. He got the job done, but I need a legitimate guy who has experience in that role to come in and do his job.
I think that's a great point, Claibs. And you see a lot of teams, they have multiple options in their closing position. Even the Orioles, you look at some of the hard throwers that they have.
Soto and Bautista.
Cano, even Sir Anthony Dominguez could probably do that if they needed him to, even though he has struggled this season. It can't all ride on Ryan Helsley. And it's been shaky a couple of times, especially when he's had, too many days off and then has been called on to go back-to-back with around 30 pitches each outing. That's a tough ask for a closer.
It really is. And, you know you don't want to put yourself in a position where everything is hanging on this one individual. Throw in the fact that his name's going to be mentioned in trade talks as well. So you have a lot of things going on, and that would be my concern from a bullpen standpoint. Other than that, I think everything else they're all capable. You're getting a little bit more offensive productivity out of Walker. Victor Scott seems like he's found a place in this lineup. What more can you say about Herrera? And I think everybody, Newt Barr, it's interesting. He's an interesting guy where he'll hit 240, but have great on base percentage. And, he's drawing walks, which is great, but he can't steal bases or he can't advance, when you have a good number 2 hitter behind him. So that's something you have to take a look at and see, all right, what about other leadoff man options? Who is that other person? Ollie's been pretty good with the lineup, but I think you still have to have plan B as far as who can do the job. And it may not be for a long-term period, but it may be something that you may insert just to give your team a different look on how they score runs.
And in this season where you're trying to figure out exactly where each piece fits best, that's not the worst idea in the world, considering you have speed with Wynn, you have speed with Victor Scott, and they're getting on base their fair share and hitting for average as well. Now, let's touch a little bit more on today. The Orioles have won 3 straight games. They're starting to get a little bit hot. They turn to, right now, the most successful starter in their rotation, Tomoyuki Sugano. Mentioned he's 35 years old. Let's just list the accolades for him in the NPB in Japan. 12 seasons in the Nippon Leagues, 3 times Central League MVP. He was the Central League Climax Series MVP, which is their postseason. Won the Japanese Triple Crown in 2018. Won the Cy Young Award version of the Japanese League twice in 2017 and 18. I mean, this guy has awards out the wazoo, and in his first year in the big leagues is pitching to just over a 3 ERA.
Yeah, he's done a nice job. I was talking to Miles Michaelis about him yesterday, and he and Miles know each other, and they've stayed in touch since Miles left Japan. Yeah, you know what? He's a guy that is good for this organization. They thought they could get away with Charlie Morton and also Kyle, who was with us, and I can't think of his last name. Kyle Gibson. They thought those veterans would help the young guys. Well, Gibson didn't work out. Morton really didn't work out. I mean, he's 1-7 now, or something along that line. And they thought this guy would come over and provide some experience and leadership. And I think for the most part, he's done a nice job. I'm looking forward to watching him pitch. But like you, I had a chance to look at his information, and it is impressive. There's no doubt about it. And he's over here, just trying to help an organization. And I'm a little surprised that it was Baltimore is where he landed, because I'm thinking he could help a lot of teams in baseball with regard to his experience. But Baltimore was able to get him, and he might be the only credible guy they have in their rotation, because they have some other guys that are hurt. So we'll see where this goes today. We've seen guys like this before. And if you don't get them early, then they could be a real problem later. And it's that second time through the order is where you have to make your adjustments with regard to what does he have working for him today. So I'm anxious to see this today.
And you're right. It was surprising that he went to the Orioles. When you see these successful Japanese pitchers, that when they get posted and when they sign with major league clubs, usually you see them with teams like the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Giants, coastal teams. It was so surprising to see Shota Imanaga go to Chicago and be in the middle of the country rather than in a coastal city. And it's great to see Sugano having a lot of success with the Orioles. Now, one thing about him that is eye-popping is that in 7 of his 9 starts, he's given up a home run. In 3 of his 9, he's given up multiple home runs. So if you can get the ball in the air, especially in the right situation, you can really hurt him a little bit if you're St. Louis.
No, you're right. And, Baltimore's ballpark plays reasonably fair. I mean, they have a few things that are tricked up. But I'm looking at him in that same regard. And we have some fly ball hitters, and I think Arenado will be back today. But the thing is, you can't go in there looking to jack. You got to just make contact and see where it goes from there. But, yeah, that's going to be something that I know Cardinals are going to be paying attention to, the fact that, if he gets it up, you can get it up. And if he gets up, it's going to go out.
That may be the one thing that's really missing from this lineup of late, even during this stretch of wins. The slug has not been there at least consistently. And if they can get that, they'll be in good shape. Now, Andre Pallante for the Cardinals didn't have his best start his last time out, certainly not a horrible start by any stretch. He had the loss in 5 2/3, gave up 3 earned runs, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. That was against a really good Detroit Tigers team. This will be his first career start against the Orioles. What do you see from him?
Well, you know what? He's getting some pitches up, and they've hurt him. Detroit's a very disciplined team offensively. They don't get themselves out very often, and I think they just outlasted Palante in his last outing. It's going to be interesting to see what the Baltimore lineup looks like, because we see a lot of teams that stack a bunch of lefties against Palante. Well, Palante does his best work against left-handed hitters when he's right. So it'll be something to see what he tries to do more of and less of. He's a thinker. He's a very prepared individual, and it'll be something I'm going to watch to see how he goes after guys early and trying to run pitches in on their hands and not leave anything out over the plate. If a guy gets hit, he just gets hit. But point being, he needs to be more aggressive in establishing certain parts of the zone.
Keep things at the bottom of the zone. Don't let those Orioles hitters hurt you. Looking at this current roster for Baltimore, 2 hitters have had success against him, Cedric Mullins and Gunnar Henderson. So not very unfamiliar names to those who watch baseball. 2 of the headliners for the Orioles have had great success against Palante. Before we get into our final touches on this show, it's important to remind you folks that all content here is provided by DraftKings, and baseball season is officially underway. It's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick 6. Think of DraftKings Pick 6 as your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stack. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credit instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play. $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Welcome back to Cards Hub 365. Mike Claiborne, Stefan Caray putting the finishing touches on this show, discussing Game 2 against Baltimore. Cardinals lose Game 1 5-2. No lineups yet. It is a little bit early for a night game at Camden Yards. Claibs, what do they need to do to be successful here in the second game of the series and get back on track?
Get out front early and let the defense take care of itself. Like I said earlier, they're good at doing that and setting the tone. And a team like Baltimore, if you can get on them early, they're going to go, uh-oh, here we go again. And that's something they have to do. I mean, top of the order's got to be effective. And if they do that against a pitcher who Baltimore would probably consider their best guy, if you get their best guy early, I think it's going to be hard for them to come back. And your bullpen's reasonably rested. Arenado may be in the lineup this evening. I'm saying he will be, because he was feeling good yesterday. He was ready to pinch hit yesterday if it came down to that. So if you get your regular lineup in, I think if you're patient, you should be able to beat this team.
Certainly a good sign if Arenado comes back, not only for team morale, but also defensively. He has really helped out. And
hey,
even
let me run this by you. What do you think of his defense this year?
I think is
it all-star caliber?
I do think it's all-star caliber. I think that sometimes we get caught in the weeds for Gold Glove awards that don't necessarily strictly monitor defense. I think we see some guys that are playing good defense that get the award because their bat is good as well. I think Arenado is looking like his former self, like the guy that was winning Platinum Glove awards on the regular. And he may not be turning the clock as much with his bat yet, but defensively, he's looked every bit as good as he's been in the past.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's playing as good at third base as I've seen him in the Cardinal uniform. He's making plays that last year and the year before, maybe he's a step slow getting to a ball or whatever. But, man, I just think he is really on top of his game right now. As you touched on, we haven't seen the offense yet. And I don't know what that looks like at this point in his career. But, from just the term Gold Glove, he's got to be in that conversation for his defense. And from an all-star standpoint, that's maybe a little bit more with regard to maybe there's another third baseman who probably has better offensive numbers. But man, as far as the glove is concerned, I'd be hard pressed to find somebody who's as good as him. Maybe Machado. I think Machado plays a really good third base. He does everything in an effortless manner to the point where some people will say he might be dogging it. That's just who he is as a player. But he does a lot of things that you appreciate. But seeing Arenado on a daily basis makes me feel like he's got to be in that conversation.
It's crazy to be talking about those two here in the year 2025 because back in the day, it was Manny Machado playing third base at Camden Yards for the Orioles while Arenado was playing for the Rockies, and both of them winning Gold Gloves and making those highlight plays and being the premier third baseman in all of Major League Baseball. But I agree. I think that Arenado's done a nice job of controlling what he can control. If offensively he can't put together the best at bats right now, he's still contributing to this team and helping them more than he's hurting them because his defense is at such a premium.
Now, with that said, the big discussion obviously in the offseason was trading him. I still don't know if he has value to somebody else because of the contract and his offense hasn't come around like he would want it to.
I don't know if he does either, but not because he's not quite the player that he used to be offensively. I don't think he's as valuable to any other team as he is to this version of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, I
think that you see him making plays, and I tweeted this out. I know this sounds very Boy Scouty. It sounds like something that really is me being a homer and a fan, but you don't see a guy putting his body on the line at his age as often as he does if he doesn't love this team and love this organization. And he's done that more often than not this year.
Yeah. Guys in that situation in the past do go out of their way not to sacrifice themselves because they don't want to hurt their property, that be it themselves. And in his case, he's going all out. And I know that as a fan, I appreciate it. I'm sure his teammates appreciate it as well. And I just don't think trading him is going to help anybody. I mean, what team is going to be willing to spend that kind of money? His value, as you touch on, is not as great to somebody else as it is to the Cardinals.
Well, and you were banking on Nolan Gorman to have a huge offensive year, and that was going to be the reason that validated the trade of Arenado. Mm-hmm. And right now, there is no validation, right? Oh. Because Arenado is hitting better and defending better than Gorman at this point in time. So I think things in a strange way worked out for St. Louis. Now, the final point here being the Cardinals have a big one ahead of them today against the Orioles. You don't want to lose the series if you can avoid it. Orioles have had 5 runs in back-to-back games. Keep them under that, and I think you got a pretty good shot of winning.
Yeah, no, I think so. You'll see a tighter team tonight. That's the thing about this team. They haven't had many droughts so far this year. Early in the season, they were trying to find a way. But since they've been on this run, they'll win 3, lose 1, win 5, lose 1, something along that line. So I expect them to come back tonight and put it back in gear.
You've been right more often than you've been wrong. Every time we've worked together, you talked about them needing to finish off teams in Game 3. They did that. You talked about this team turning it around early in the season. They've done that. So I'm just going to trust your infinite wisdom, Mike Claiborne. I hope you have a tremendous, tremendous evening in Baltimore. Make sure to eat some crab cakes for all of us. And the Cardinals look to even the series at 5:35 p.m. Central Time, 6:35 Eastern, and even up this series at 1 game apiece. For everyone here at Sports Hub STL, powered by DraftKings, I'm Stefan Caray. He's Mike Claiborne. Thank you so much for joining us. Game 2 coming up tonight in Baltimore.